With a 70-year-old history, the NBA is bound to be associated with some lawbreakers who played in the league. In this video, we're going to give you 10 of the biggest criminals who play in the NBA right now. Number 10, J.R. Smith. The tattoo fan and LeBron favorite has been in the spotlight for years for things outside of his play on the court. And it turns out that the basketball court isn't the only court that JR has been involved in during his NBA career, as he's one of the players with the lengthiest criminal records in league history. His troubles began in 2007 when he ran a stop sign and slammed into an incoming vehicle, killing a friend that was in the car. He was subsequently arrested for reckless driving. If you think an incident like this would stop JR from doing what he wants to do, well, you're wrong. Over the years, he's amassed countless other driving penalties, mainly relating to driving without a license. JR is also no stranger to in-person altercations, as he was involved in a few bar fights leading to arrests, as well as a misdemeanor charge after he slammed a fan's cell phone to the ground. It's safe to say that JR cares as much about the law as he cares about how many seconds are left on the clock in the NBA Finals. Number 9, Caldwell-Pope. Taking into account how bad the Lakers were in the 17-18 season, it's no wonder that one of the main talking points about them that year was the fact that their guard Caldwell-Pope was only allowed to play in home games, for which he also had to wear an ankle monitor. When we say ankle monitor, we don't mean he was trying to prevent an ankle injury or something. He was actually under surveillance by the LAPD to make sure he didn't leave the state of California. KCP was sentenced to a 25-day jail sentence for violating a parole sentence in Michigan for driving while intoxicated. What's even more interesting is that he was only allowed to leave jail to attend team practices and games, after which he was required to return to jail immediately. This went on for an entire month, and after serving his 25-day sentence, KCP was finally allowed to travel with the team and play in games ankle monitor free. Number 8, John Wall. Over the last 2 years, Wall hasn't appeared in a single NBA game until the start of the 2021 season, but that didn't stop him from making a few headlines. Unfortunately for him, they were all for the wrong reasons. In September of 2020, Wall was caught on video throwing up gang signs in the presence of a few alleged gang members that he likes to hang out with. This is no secret for Wall, as he's been doing gang signs pretty much as soon as he joined the NBA, and he's allegedly closely affiliated with members of the Blood Gang. Wall also has an unpleasant encounter with the police on his record. In 2008, when Wall was still lighting it up in high school basketball, he was fined for breaking into an abandoned home. Fortunately, despite hanging out with the wrong crowd for a while, Wall has so far remained out of any big trouble. But it's uncertain for how long he can keep that up considering his friend circle and the amount of money he has. Number 7, Carmelo Anthony. Melo is a bad man on the court, and it seems like he can be just as much of a bad boy off of it as well. While he appears to be quite a nice guy, and we're sure he is, he does have his fair share of run-ins with the law. It might be that Melo's living in the future, because when he was playing for the Denver Nuggets, he attempted to board the team plane with some marijuana in his bag. Mind you, this happened way before weed became legal in Denver, so airport security was quick to arrest the then young Melo for marijuana possession. A few years later, Anthony was arrested for DUI and sentenced to a year's probation. Melo was also allegedly associated with a few gang members, and while it's never been publicly known that he was ever part of a gang himself, his choice of friends certainly raises a few eyebrows. Number 6, DeMar DeRozan. Growing up in the tough neighborhoods of Compton, California during the 90s and early 2000s, DeMar has seen some stuff that no kid that age should see. Gang wars, weapons, murder, and violence were an everyday sight for him. So the fact that he remains closely connected to that life to this day should be no surprise. Thanks to his father, DeMar never actually participated in any of the gang stuff himself, and focused on developing as a basketball player, in the hope of one day escaping that life. Seeing his potential, the gangs even protected him and made sure he was safe, knowing that he had a shot to make it to the NBA. Growing up in a Crip neighborhood, DeMar is certainly not ashamed of where he comes from, and we can often see him repping his gang during games. But in his case, people can actually appreciate that, since he actually comes from that kind of life, and isn't faking it or trying to be cool like some other players. The Lakers seem to not mind associating themselves with players with a criminal history. Can you guess which one of their latest additions had a run-in with the law not too long ago? Number 5, Dennis Schroder. While he looks calm and composed on the court during his time with the Hawks, Schroder was involved in a vicious attack on a man who was jumped by Schroder and 3 others in a mall parking lot. It's unclear why the attack happened, but video footage appeared to show Dennis and the other attackers hitting and kicking the victim until he was left with serious injuries, which required lengthy rehabilitation and a number of surgeries. Dennis was arrested and was facing up to 20 years in prison for his involvement in the attack. Miraculously, after the initial report of the case against Schroder, it seems like everything was forgotten, and we haven't heard anything of significance about it since. We have to assume that either the charges were dropped or Dennis privately handled the matter, meaning he paid off the victim. One thing is for sure, do not mess with Dennis Schroder, especially when he's with his group of friends. Number 4, Rodions Carrots. After a solid rookie season, Rodion Carrots became glued to the Nets bench. And one reason for that may be the fact that he was involved in a domestic violence case in the summer of 2019. Carrots allegedly got into a heated argument with his then-girlfriend in their New York home. The Latvian became so erratic that he began screaming that he was going to kill himself, after which he proceeded to choke his girlfriend, slam her on the bed, and repeatedly slap her in the face and the lips. That's one way of committing suicide. Anyway, Rodions was quickly arrested by the NYPD, but was released without bail except for a warning not to get close to his victim again. This assault also threatened the Nets forward to be deported, but in the end, he remained in Brooklyn and is now happily clapping on the bench with Kyrie and KD on his team. Number 3. Josh Jackson. Despite only being in the NBA for 3 seasons, the once highly regarded prospect out of Kansas has already amassed quite the impressive criminal resume. His first arrest came before he even played in the NBA, and it happened during his time with the Jayhawks. He and a teammate decided that vandalizing the said teammate's ex's car would be the ideal solution for their relationship problems, and Josh evenly verbally assaulted the victim. For this incident, he was ordered to attend anger management classes, do community service, and pay a small fine. This was only the beginning of Josh's trouble with the law, and in his time in the NBA, he's added to his collection of arrests. In May of 2019, he attempted to enter the VIP area of a music festival for which he had no ticket for, and after resisting with security, he was handcuffed and attempted to escape, though he was eventually caught. He was also accused by the mother of his child that he was smoking marijuana around the infant, and apparently got her high. It's really sad to see what's happening with Josh, as he seemed to be destined for greatness prior to the draft. However, off-court issues continue to be a problem for him, and until he gets that settled and starts focusing on basketball, it'll be hard to expect him to reach his full potential. Number 2. Marcus and Markeith Morris. The Morris twins have been around for quite some time now, and both have grown into important pieces on championship contending teams. One thing that's known about them apart from their basketball skills is that they're 2 pretty tough guys. Growing up in the tough areas of Philadelphia will do that to you. One interesting thing about them is that they not only share the same bank account for their NBA salary, but they also share the same criminal record. In January 2015, the identical twins joined 3 other men to beat up an acquaintance outside of a basketball game in Phoenix, where they played at the time. The victim appeared to have sent an inappropriate text message to the twins' mom, which severely angered them. And they decided to let their frustrations be known by attacking the man who suffered a broken nose and other injuries. Several witnesses placed the twins at the place of the attack, but in the end, police failed to gather enough evidence to prosecute them, and they were able to get away with assault without major consequences. Number 1. Draymond Green. Kevin Durant will be the first to tell you that Draymond Green can be quite an unpleasant guy to be around. Another man who can tell you the same is a guy in Michigan who Draymond beat up after an argument in a restaurant. The incident happened during the 2016 offseason, and perhaps angered by the fact that his team had lost the 3-1 lead in that year's finals, Green decided to let his frustrations out on the poor fella at the restaurant. Fortunately for Draymond, his victim only suffered minor injuries and didn't report the attack to the police himself. The Warriors' big man was still facing an aggravated assault and battery charge, which could have seen him spend up to 3 months in jail. But in the end, as with most cases involving pro athletes and other celebrities, nothing came out of it and Green was allowed to walk free. Unfortunately, Green failed to learn from this mistake and remained to be a pain in the ass, until KD finally had enough of it and left them for the Brooklyn Nets. Who do you think is the biggest criminal currently in the NBA? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more NBA content.